In this video, we'll walk through how to set up your game fees. Game fees, as the name suggests, are the fees that are owed to your officials after they work their games. Assignr provides several different ways for you to set up and track your game fees, depending on how your organization or leagues pay folks. Here are the different types of game fees our platform supports. We support an age group-based structure. This is the simplest kind of structure. Age group-based fees means that officials get paid different amounts depending on which age group their game is tied to. League-based structure is the second type of structure we support. League-based game fees are our most common type of fee structure and are a bit more complex in that game fees are based off of a game's league or club in addition to the game's age group. The third type of game fee structure that Assignr supports is experience-based fees, which are called pay scales in the system. Pay scales are only meant to be used if officials are paid different rates depending on their level of experience. This is not a very common setup, so we won't be reviewing it in this video. However, we will link to a step-by-step support article in the video description should this kind of setup be relevant for your organization. If this pertains to you, we encourage you to follow the steps in the article, then return to this video to finish setting up your game fees. Depending on your organization's needs, you can set up just one or a combination of these various game fee types within your Assignr site. So before you set up your game fees, you'll want to make sure you have the following fields already set up in your site: your patterns, your age groups, and if applicable, your leagues. If you're working with more than one league, especially leagues that pay officials different amounts, then you'll definitely want to add leagues in addition to patterns and age groups. Otherwise, you can technically omit adding leagues. We've reviewed how to add these fields to your site in past videos, so we won't be reviewing that in this video, but we'll also link to articles down below that walk you through that process if you need help with that. Now it's time to actually add your game fees. First, let's walk through how to set up age group-based fees. So if you're working with just one league, or if all of your leagues or clubs pay the same game fees, then you'll want to set up your fees from the Maintenance, Ages, and Fees page. This will apply fees to each game assignment based on the game's age group, pattern, and position. You'll select Edit next to each age group and fill in the game fees in the game fees table accordingly. We'll go through one age group together now. So when you're ready, you'll select Edit next to the age group you want to update, and then at the bottom, you'll be able to see the game fees table. You'll want to fill in the default fee in this table for any pattern and position that may be associated with this age group. So in this example, if we look at that first row, an official working the referee position for a game tied to the one official pattern and the under 8 age group will make $20. And the same logic applies all the way down the table. Again, you'll want to fill in fees for any and all patterns and positions where officials will be owed a game fee, assuming they work a game tied to this age group. If you'd like, you can also add game fees in bulk rather than one at a time in this table here by selecting this Batch Update Game Fees button. How this works is you'll input just one game fee and then add whatever criteria you want to be tied to that game fee. If you leave a field blank, then the system is going to treat that as you selecting all of whatever the blank field is. So all leagues, age groups, patterns, or positions. Once you select Save, the game fees tables will be updated with this game fee for whatever criteria matches up above. Don't forget to select Save at the bottom of whatever age group you're working on in order to save that game fees table. In the end, you'll want to make sure all of your age groups have their game fees tables filled out correctly so you can repeat the steps we just covered for each of the age groups in your site. Now that we've reviewed how to set up age group-based fees, let's talk through how to set up league-based fees. If your leagues or clubs have different game fees from one another, then you'll want to set up your fees from the Maintenance Leagues page instead of the Ages and Fees page. This will apply fees to each game assignment based on the game's league, age group, pattern, and position. The process will look very similar to the age group-based fees in that you'll select Edit next to each league and fill in the game fees table accordingly. We'll go through one league together. So when you're ready, you'll select Edit next to the league that you want to edit. You'll scroll down to the bottom to see the game fees table, and then you'll update the default fee in the table for any age group, pattern, and position that may be associated with this league. So in this example, if we look at the first row, an official working the referee position for a game tied to the one official pattern and the under 10 age group and the competitive league will make $15. And the same logic applies all the way down. So you'll want to fill in the fees for any and all age groups, patterns, and positions where officials will be owed a game fee, assuming they work a game tied to this, in this example, competitive league. I mentioned this in the last chapter, but if you prefer to update game fees in bulk, you can select this Batch Update Game Fees button. You'll fill in one game fee and then input the relevant criteria that should be applied to this game fee. And if you leave any field blank, then the system is going to treat that that as you selecting all of whatever fields you've left blank. And then when you select save, the relevant game fee tables will be updated based on the information you input here. One last thing I'll mention about league-based game fees. If you filled in game fees for your age groups under maintenance, ages, and fees, and if a league should have those standard age groups game fees tied to it, then you can also select this button, copy standard fees, to autofill those age group fees amounts into this league's game fees table. Don't forget to select save at the bottom of whatever league you're working on in order to save that league's game fees table. In the end, you'll want to make sure all of the leagues have their game fees tables filled out correctly so you can repeat the steps we just covered for this league for each of the leagues in your site. That's about all there is to adding game fees. I will just mention a couple pieces of information about game fees just so you're aware. The first is how the system prioritizes the game fees in the system. So whether you have your game fees set up under leagues or ages and fees or a combination of both, if you edit an individual game and add game fees from within that screen, the system will always prioritize paying any assigned officials those fees versus the fees set up anywhere else. This is called an override fee. After that, assuming you don't enter an override fee, the system will prioritize pulling fees from the league's game fees table. If your site either doesn't have leagues added or doesn't have league's game fees fully filled out, then the system will pull from the game fees within the ages and fees game fees table. The last thing I will say again is if your organization pays officials different amounts based on their level of experience, so for example, if a junior official is paid less than a senior official, then you'll want to set up pay scales. We'll link to an article that walks you through how to set those up below, and once you've done that, you can come back to this video to set up your game fees for both your default fees as well as your pay scales. Again, this use case is not common, but I mention it just in case it does apply. Now that you've set up your game fees, we can walk through how to assign your officials to games.